success principles is surround yourself with people who support you, who see a better future for you, who can cheer you on when you have a dark day or a dark time.
Well, hello, everybody. Dr. Ron Oberstein, president of Life Chiropractic College West. And it's an honor to be with you on this Life West leadership line. And I've got a very special guest today. I've got someone I've known for many, many, many years, Dr. Shawn Powers. Hey, Dr. Shawn, good to see you.
Hey, Ron.
Welcome. Look at all those books behind you, or videos, or something. I don't know, but man, that's like let me tell the audience a little bit about you before we get going. Dr. Shawn has been I've been a chiropractor, graduated in 1982. I will tell you, I graduated in 81. So you're still the youngster in the room here, young lady. There you go. 40 years in practice, graduated from Palmer Davenport. 35 plus years in practice, but probably 20, two plus decades. That's how we like to say it. 2+ decades of mentoring and coaching chiropractors, from around the world. She's one of the co-founders of the League of Chiropractic Women. She sat on board. She was on the Colorado Society of Chiropractic's board. I might have botched that name. There was a society at one point. I think they merged. Texas Society of Chiropractic. She was on the board of that. And she's just been doing just a tremendous amount of things. Was on the board of the World Congress of Women in Chiropractic. And just on and on, but you can get the feeling and get the picture that Dr. Shawn has been involved in this profession on a deep level for many, many years, not just practicing, not just mentoring and coaching, but also politically. And, she's paid her dues. And I'm so proud to have you with us today, Dr. Shawn, because, it's like, we know what it's like to put the dues in. A lot of people don't. There's always people, but that's okay, because 20% need to be on that front line, but we need the support of the 80%, right?
Right.
Gotta help.
Yeah, and I think that things like this help people get more involved outside of their four walls. Yeah. So I thank you for doing this podcast, because it is important to bring the profession together outside of the four walls that they live in.
Yeah. And we do have four walls, that's for sure. So listen, we're going to jump into a ton of stuff today. And I know it's going to lead us down different rabbit holes and things like that. But before we do, just share with us in maybe 2 minutes or less, how'd you get into chiropractic? Because 1982, women in chiropractic, I guarantee you were probably, I know Mary, my wife, she graduated in 86, and there are probably 20% women in school at that point, right? So tell us about you.
Yeah, it was even less then. But how it became is my dad died when I was 2 years old. And my destiny was I wanted to find something that prevented dads from dying. So I became a critical care nurse. And the first day I went away to university, I was 17 years old, I met a Palmer student. And they started talking to me about chiropractic. The second day I was in Davenport, Iowa, I got my first adjustment. So I continued on the path of nursing because that's what I thought was my calling. I graduated. I was a critical care nurse. I worked a double shift once, 16 hours. I saw 12 people die in 16 hours. That was not congruent with my mission of no more dead dads. It was heartbreaking. And I was only 20 years old. So the next morning I said, I've got to find something else. And the calling came to me. It was chiropractic. So I went back to Davenport, Iowa, a place I never thought I would go back again, and became a chiropractor. So that's really my mission, was to save lives.
I love it. It's interesting because, not many people make Davenport a destination unless they're there for a specific reason, and that's to be a chiropractor. But that is so cool. It's interesting because as a woman in chiropractic, and you've been involved with a lot of different women groups in chiropractic, obviously, kind of from what I've said, and I know you've mentored and coached a lot of women. I think for all of us, there's got to be something around identity with that, right? Because, it's like when people see us, they see me as a male. Mary and I work together. They see me as a male chiropractor, her as a female chiropractor, not just as two doctors. I don't think they would do that with a medical doctor or an osteopath. They wouldn't say, "Oh, well, I want the man," or "I want the one." It's like they just, it's just there. So I guess my question for you, maybe we can get into a conversation around it if you feel it's appropriate, is identity. Like just the identity of people in chiropractic, or what does that mean?
Right. And that's a really interesting question, because when I first started in practice, when I graduated, I think there were about 7 women in my class.
Out of how many? Out of
7.
how many?
Out of probably 250. It was a big class. Wow. It was a big class. And I could be wrong on those numbers, but it was one of the bigger classes. And after the first year, there was maybe 2 of us. After 5 years, I was maybe 1 or 2 of us still in practice. And I would hire coaches all the time, because I'm one of those people who's tell me more, help me get smarter, quicker, faster, right? Accelerate my overflow. And I had a male coach once. I worked with my partner who was a male, and he told me to go home and have babies. Let the guy do the work. And I was like, are you kidding me? And then so the identity for me was always, I am a chiropractor. And not only am I a chiropractor, but I am chiropractic, right? So when people talk to me, when they see me, when they're watching and I don't know they're watching, they're measuring what and defining what chiropractic is. So identity is really important. We are not what we do. We are who we be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. And the interesting thing around that is that it's interesting because people can hold themselves as, well, I'm a male chiropractor. I'm a female chiropractor, so I'm not getting the respect. I'm short, so I'm tall, so people are afraid of me. And the truth is like, those are the stories we kind of say to ourselves. I'm not saying it's not real for other people to see that, but the stories we say to ourselves compared to the reality is how I emanate myself is what I'm hearing you say is who they're going to really see, right?
Right. And I think also as you go through the seasons of your life, whether you're a male or you're a female, there are seasons of our lives. There are times when the babies are young, the family requires more. And if you don't identify yourself first around those foundations, then if it's all about your practice, what you get is a great practice and miserable life.
Yeah.
And I'm all about the identity of who we are as a whole being. Our body, our mind, our spirit, our profession is what we profess. That's, the innate intelligence, what we believe above, down, inside out. But be very careful about how you identify yourself as you move through seasons of your life. If you want to, at the end of your life, pretty much have sit in the rocking chair and said, I did a good job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's really about being authentic then, because like you said before, we're not chiropractic, that's what we do. It's not who we are. Right. And being.
Well, and can I just say, please, Ron, for some of us, that is who we are. Like, we can't think outside in. Right? We can't not trust the innate capacity of the body. We cannot not think about brain-body connection. So in essence, we are chiropractic. But if we didn't have a practice, do we jump off the building? Because our practice failed, right? That's the difference in your identity being driven from the inside, that moral compass, that belief system versus the role you play.
Right. And I guess how kind of I'm interpreting it too is that we can take the chiropractic principles and we can take all those things and incorporate that into our life. But so many people identify with what they do instead of who they are. And I think that's where we can go into a crossroads where we don't, fulfill what our magnitude is within us, because we're so identified in what I do. I'm an NBA basketball player. That's all well, no, you aren't. That's what you do, but who you are, and you can carry that and use that for the best, to make great change in the world. But, and I think that happens, and I know that certain men lose their identity in chiropractic. I know that, I think a lot of people do, and I hear what you're saying. Take these principles, take that, live your life from that. And now you're incorporating that into who you are, and everything you do, you can relate back to, chiropractic or back to wherever it is, but still who we are. And when you talk about identity, I guess the question I have for you, because I know that, you've been involved in these women organizations, what do you think? So, what is a stumbling block? And we know there's a stigma out there, and that's out there, and I get it. But tell me the stumbling blocks that you find when, like, you're coaching women or you're talking with them. And I know you're not exclusively a woman coach or anything like that, but what are what's one of the major things that you kind of see?
Interestingly enough, the first 10 years of my coaching practice, I didn't have any women.
Yeah.
Because women, for whatever reason, don't tend to invest in themselves or take the time to get support and get help. They're such caregivers, supporters, et cetera, that they're always the last, right? So as we start to see, like, part of I think the impetus to women getting more help, support, and coaching was the founding of the League of Chiropractic Women, so that you do not have somebody thinking that there's only one way to do it. So part of your identity is owning who you are, owning what everything about your life means, and deciding how you practice and how you live your life. And so one of the stumbling blocks for women is that they think often to be successful, they have to sacrifice. And so then they almost don't even start, because they've almost been given this belief: if you don't work 5 days a week, or you don't work a Saturday, or you're not somebody who loves chiropractic so much that you don't take a vacation, you can't be successful. So, as you know, when we came up, there was one way of practice. You had certain hours, certain days, And so I think the biggest stumbling for women is to just step into their power. Don't listen to the chatter. Don't compare yourself to others, and invest in yourself. Because when they do that, then life just expands, practice expands with ease.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I get it. I totally get it. And I think that's great advice, because I'll just share with you. I remember, when Mary and I were practicing together, and we practiced many, many years together, 30 something years. And we would always have associate doctors. And when we were having kids, and Mary was in that season of her life, wanting to have children and doing that. I remember there was a woman associate doctor that we had at the time, and she looked at Mary and said, "How are you doing this? Like, you're supposed to be a chiropractor. How do you take time off?" And I remember Mary just saying to her, very gently and lovingly, just saying, "I have plenty of time to practice." And she still came back and still worked a half a day, and then worked into 2 half days, and then, and built, came back and then, came into, a day and a half, and just kind of built it in. And then she'd get pregnant again, and then she'd phase out, and then she'd come back in. And I think that, like you said, like us coming up, it was all about, our identity was tied into our success in practice. It wasn't tied into who we were, like, what do you could, like you just said, you could have it all. Just take it, right?
Right. And how do you define the all, right? You don't have to define it like, I remember the reason why I really started coaching, there was 2 reasons. Zigafus asked me to start, and a woman who was in a coaching program that I was in became pregnant. She had terrible morning sickness, and she was talking to our coach, and she said, "I just can't keep these hours." And he told her to man up and get over it. And she called me in tears. And I was like, that is absolutely ridiculous. You can't control that, right? You can't man up during pregnancy, right? It's sort of, anyway. So I think also is that to trust trust yourself as part of your identity, and your identity will go through the seasons. And we do practice in decades. Like, even though I'm not standing at a table every day anymore, I'm in multiple offices around the world working in the background as their coach, right? Yeah. So, and you know how that is. Sometimes in our profession, they'll say to you, oh, well, you're a president now. What do you know, right? Like, all the things that we learned all those years in practice, that knowledge, wisdom, and experience.
Let me show you all the battle scars, right?
Right. It doesn't get erased because we no longer are in a practice, right? So identity is just like, own it, who you are, trust who you are, and don't compare yourself to anybody else. And when you feel, I think the other block for men and women is that when they keep hitting the wall, it's because they're not honoring who they are, and they're trying to run into a different program. Like, I'm a Mac girl. If a PC runs totally different, right? And so I would feel, what is this? Oh, I don't know that part, right? So
yeah, creates a subluxation in life, right? And then we're either going to grow up or we're going to grow down, or we'll either be in ease or dis-ease, and it's just the pattern it goes. So you kind of touched on this. Talk about success principles, or priorities, whatever you want to call it. Like give us a few key things on being successful, things that you share with the people that you work with.
One of my favorite quotes about success is by Thoreau. And I was asked to do my mother's eulogy when she died. And the night before, I was in her room, my mom and dad's room, just sitting there feeling her. And under her glass tabletop, I found this card that I had sent to her. And it just says, about laughing often, loving much, leaving the world a better place, either by a redeemed social condition or a garden patch. And so success comes back to you. How do you define it? And it will change at times of our lives. There are times that it's about getting our reserve built up so that we have that freedom to live, be, and do what we want. But I think the reality about success is it doesn't take time. It takes bravery. Yeah. It takes courage. It takes that willingness to make decisions and follow one course until you've accomplished what you've wanted. Yeah. So success principles are vital to defining it, embracing it, and not apologizing for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, we've heard this, it's kind of cliche-ish, but it is so true that if you ask any successful person how many times they failed, they will tell you they failed 3 times more than their successes. And it comes to what you just said. You just do it. Just step out and do it. And it's okay to fail. We always talk about falling forward, something that I preach at the college. It's okay to fail, but fall forward. Don't fall backwards. Just keep going,
Even how you define it, it's just a lesson. That was an experience. Like, how sometimes I do this thing, let's live without regrets. But the reality is, if we're truly living, we will have regrets. And if the regret doesn't give us a lesson, if we don't take time to pause, to slow down, to say, what did I learn from that? Then that's an icky feeling of regret, right? So I think that it is so vital to really make that decision about, it's okay, green and growing or ripe and rotting. And that if I fall down, I fall forward. And how did I learn to walk better because I fell? Right? When kids are walking and they fall down, we don't chastise them. We clap, we pick them up, we cheer them on, right? Yeah. And there's actually studies that show if you put somebody in a freezing cold bucket of water, they're barefooted in a freezing cold bucket of water, physiologically, they can't sustain it very long. But if there's people around them clapping and cheering them on, they can go longer and longer and longer. So success principles is surround yourself with people who support you, who see a better future for you, who can cheer you on when you have a dark day or a dark time, because you said you got the scars, Ron, right? We all have those times.
Absolutely. And when you think about it, that there's that old saying about who you surround yourself with is, when you, if you're with people whose energy is down here, there that physics law of entrainment, that the higher frequency will always go to the lower frequency, no matter what, and no matter what, it's the law of physics. And then people just have to understand that surround yourself with people who have a frequency at your level or at the level that they want to, they want to be at, right? That kind of thing. The question I have for you, and I'll just have you rattle these off, just, 3 things I'd like to ask you, or I'd like to have you share with us. Because you're all over the world, you're working with people. What, just universally, what would you say the 3 different elements that you see in someone's practice or within themselves that might be causing, stumbling blocks or subluxations to having them have their success? What would those 3 be, just off the top of your head?
Their beliefs, what they believe, and who and what they spend their time with can either elevate them or drop them to a lower frequency and reality, or indulging in the negative, or that inability to be successful. And the third thing that I think is a real stumbling block for people is lack of action. It's like the ripple effect. If you start and you stop, it's harder to get going. Inertia sets in, and you just don't get as far each time you start and stop. So staying in action. If you have inaction in your life, your practice, it's going to be harder to be successful. And within that is your belief system. If you're operating out of fear or shame or doubt, that creates fear, shame, and doubt behaviors. And that creates a less than stellar life, less than stellar practice.
Yeah, we definitely mimic, what we're feeling on the inside. People think like they can hide it, like I'm shamed about this, but they think I'll put on a different face. But, everyone knows that people feel it. They get to it, because naturally we're innate beings, right? And so we will pick it up innately, and then it'll go into our consciousness. And then as a viewer of it, we'll finally get to see, what's really there, and then ask the question like, are you okay? And it's like, my smile doesn't show that I'm all right, kind of. But the question I have for you, because you talked about action. You talked about inertia, and I know you grew up with this because, Sigafoos used to talk about this, going from room to room to room to room, or table to table to table when no patients are there. And when you're starting practice, and just go adjust all these invisible people and go through your actions. So as you're going through your actions, and people out there who've been practicing 30 plus years, they get it, because that's what we were told to do, go back 35 years ago, whatever. But newer people might go, oh my God, but it's like, you just keep doing that until the tables get filled up. Right. And that's that action you're talking about, right? That inertia.
Yeah. Like what you see in your mind's eye, it comes true in reality. The words you speak, you can either speak good and success into your life and into your practice, or you can speak less than, right? So how we think, what we see, how we visualize, and how we use our bodies. So, when there's a movie like, Maverick just came out. Everybody loves that movie, right? It's a classic. And you don't think they just did those scenes, from the get-go. They wrote it, they read it, they role-played it. So BJ used to call it talking to the blockheads. He would go into the auditorium and he would see what he called blockheads, just like there's not really people there, but he would practice his oration and his Lyceum speeches. And so same thing in practice. It's dress rehearsal, baby. It's role play. It's reading of the script. And because we are performers, our job is to perform at the highest level so that people who either don't know what they have the capacity, their brain and body does, they get it, or they think that they know, and we support them in owning that and it becoming part of their lifestyle. But your job is not just, before you can really make an adjustment, you need to influence that person. You need to empower them, and you need to support them. And role playing, dress rehearsal, talking to the blockheads, that's where it becomes reality, right?
Yeah. You know, I somewhere it's been lost, and maybe it hasn't. Maybe I just think it is, you know, like the whole thing of writing your goals down and visualizing. And this is what, you know, I grew up on. You grew up on that, right? You know, these were the people, you know, and it was all about just putting it out there and trusting it. And that's where the success comes from.
Right.
You know, right? And I don't know if it's lost or not. I don't know if the newer generations that are coming through chiropractic are actually just sitting there and writing down their stuff and repeating it, putting it on their mirror, repeating their affirmations every night. You know, where you know, we wrote affirmations, and before we went to bed, and the first thing in the morning, you know, I am a healer. I am seeing this many people a week. You know, I am attracting this. I am doing that. My life is this. My life is that. And you know, people thought we were crazy listening to the thing under your pillow, the pillow phone, you know,
right,
you know, at 3:30 in the morning when your mine goes off, and you know, your voice and a tape, you know, and it's like that stuff doesn't change. It doesn't. You know, the decade doesn't change that, does it? You know.
Principles, right? Principles are unchanging. It's like the lighthouse, right? Is like the principle. The lighthouse can call people in, or the sailor can ignore it and crash, you know, into the rocks, right? And ignore it. So those principles, like you said, if you believe in quantum physics, you know, we have our dear friend Joe Dispenza. It's already there in the field. If you thought it already exists. Now you have to do the work of calling it in and believing it. And so, at least with the people I work with, we talk about outcomes more than tasks. We talk about vision and purpose. And then what does that mean? Like my goal in life is to save mothers, fathers, children, everybody from living less than, and to have the highest experience and quality of their life by having a healthy nerve system. And if you have a big vision, you need to do the work, stay in action, surround yourself with the right people, and you need to speak it so that people know, right? So the influencing piece of what we do, like every day we get to influence how people think. And when they think differently, above, down, inside out, you know, the reconnection piece of things, they'll take the actions. And that's why practices that I work with, that you work with, that you've had, that I've had, we're never short on new people, right? Yeah. We're never worried, right? Because it keeps flowing in.
Yeah. And, you know, you said something really key, and it's a great thing to kind of wrap our conversation up. You said something that was so key, and it was about, it is in the field. It's already there, right? To call it in means that we have to be disciplined, and we have to really understand it, right? And be able to know the principles of success like you talked about, right? That if it is out there, I can call it in, but I've got to be ready to have that come into my life. And it's so beautiful. Shawn, I think, you know, you are amazing. And it's like, you know, I hope our viewers, they're going to have to listen to this a few times, because there's a lot in here that we can unbundle, you know, unpack as the words are these days, but we can unbundle, and that we can just keep going into. And, you know, success doesn't change, and success always leaves clues, and it's just what's there. So thank you for sharing your success. Thank you for sharing the principles and what you do. And I've got one question, because I've been holding on to this for the last 28 minutes. So where are you from, and what got you to Davenport in the first place? Did you go to?
I grew up in Chicago.
Yeah, Midwest girl. I'm from Detroit.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. So actually I was engaged when I graduated from high school, and my mother begged me I was her 6th out of 7 children. She said, please go to college, graduate, because all the other kids didn't. And the man that I was engaged to, he's like, well, are there any schools that are full of women. A little insecure, I guess. So Marycrest College was the all-girl, like they were just starting to have men come on campus, and it was the top nursing university in the United States at that time.
And that was that was in Davenport?
That was in Davenport. That's how on my first day, I met a chiropractic student at the bar, because all good college students, first day at school, they go to the bar. And then the second day I got adjusted by him. So is how I got to Davenport. It was close to Chicago.
There is no mistakes. There's absolutely no mistakes. And if it did come out of insecurity, thank God, because critical nursing and whatever you were doing, their loss was our gain, that we were able to bring you into this profession, that you were called into this profession. And even when you went into nursing, it was for an admirable reason, to make sure that, fathers stuck around for their families. And I just love it. So thank you, Dr. Shawn. Thank you for all you've done in chiropractic and what you're going to continue to do, because I know the road isn't ending here, and I know a lot of stuff to do and fun to be had. And thank you so much for just being that rock, and also, being a woman in chiropractic, who swam against the current, obviously, as women were dropping out, you kept moving forward. And so thank you so much for all you've done and for joining us today. We'll get you back on the show at a later time. Our viewers will have all your information underneath. So please contact Dr. Shawn. Look at the different information that we've been flashing so that you can, ask her questions. And I know that you're just a wealth of information and you're so open to sharing with people. So thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for all you do and have done and continue to do, right? We are chiropractic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to our viewers, thank you. Thanks for listening to us. Thanks for coming in week after week. These leadership lines, we drop every 2 weeks. The opposite 2 weeks, we drop our Life by Life West. And so check on those. Our viewership has just been growing, and it's because of great people that we bring on, like Dr. Shawn, and you as a viewer keep sharing this. So share this with people, that are around you. Share it with new graduates, share it with people who have been in practice for 40 plus years, 50, 60, 70 years, whatever. But we do appreciate you. Remember, that you make the difference, that within us, we've got the power to heal, and it's far greater than most people have ever been led to believe. And we know that as chiropractors, the people who we deal with and, that come in front of us as our patients and our clients and our practice members. And so keep spreading that love and spreading the message of chiropractic. And most of all, keep your balance, do the success principles, take care of yourself, because without you, we can't get the work done that is so vital to this world. So until the next time, I will bid you adieu. Dr. Shawn will bid you adieu, and we'll see you at the next leadership line. Bye-bye.